Good day, everyone. Welcome back to the Doc of Detox show. Today's show is called Wi-Fi EMF Protection. Bring it home. I'm here with my dear friend Paul, who's going to explain, the science behind the Doc of Detox Wi-Fi. Listen, everybody, I need you to understand something. The world can sometimes seem like a real mysterious place. And for some people to wrap their heads around the idea of frequency, people just don't get it. This whole frequency thing is going to explode because the most important thing that's ever going to happen to you is the moment that you realize that you are a light energy being will be the day that you actually grasp the authentic part of you, the majority of you, and I do mean the majority of you. Now, we'll leave that go for a second here, but look, here's a comparison. Take structured water, okay? The only water that nature makes, is structured water. I mean, when you structure water like nature does, you're talking about erasing negative memory. You're talking about, and we're talking about rainwater here. I hope you know that. Rainwater, fast-moving rivers, waterfalls. This has all been structured water, which gets rid of negative memory. And even if it has toxins in it, even if it has heavy metals in it, guess what? You are protected from that. Why is it that we have heavy metals in the rain? We have acid rain. And guess what? The crops haven't changed in 500 years. Well, that's because our creator was smart enough to know that if you could change the frequency of the water, even though the toxins were still in it, you could protect all living organisms. So understand something. Frequency is everything. Okay? And then understand something. What about electricity? You can't see it, but you can definitely feel it. Okay. What about food and water? We know that all the water we drink and all the food we eat leaves the body, and the only thing that stays behind is the frequency. All those expensive supplements that you take, the physical part of them leaves. So what if you were able to actually use different frequencies to actually create harmony in the body that would act like supplementation or healing foods, but it would actually create harmony within your cells, right down to the cellular level, right down to the mitochondria, creating harmony, creating balance. Because you need to understand something. The human body is a walking, talking battery. We are like a solar panel. We pick up vibrations from humans. We pick up vibrations from telephones, from the computer. We pick up vibrations from what? Pick up vibrations from the lighting in our home. We pick up vibrations from the blue light off our TVs, off our computers. Look, we're very sensitive and we don't know that. We never even give it a second thought. But look at, just as you can get negative frequencies coming into your life, why can't we harness the beauty of healing frequencies? And that's what we're talking about today. All right. We're talking about Wi-Fi. And I'm going to be showing it to you in a few minutes. And the Wi-Fi is a device that you can put in your home that will actually call what we call Stillpoint, which I'm going to let Paul explain because he knows so much better than I do. But instead of fighting back these negative frequencies like 5G and your cell phones and the electrical in your walls, or all the cell phones that are coming through. I mean, if you go on your cell phone and you go to see if you can find a Wi-Fi, okay, what are you going to find? You're going to find sometimes on cell phones 20, 30 Wi-Fis in your neighborhood. Or if you live in a condo, how are you going to protect yourself from all of that flying around? What about the 5G that's going to be hitting you from satellites, or hitting you from all these mailboxes that are going to be every 5 feet in every neighborhood, so that everybody can be connected all the time and then get disconnected from all of this toxic EMF? This is what I'm talking about, okay? So what we're talking about today is an amazing device called the Wi-Fi, all right? And let's get started. So I'm going to introduce my great friend and a brilliant man. Paul, how are you?
Aloha, aloha, and thank you for having me on the show. And aloha and welcome to everybody. Just to give a little reference, my name's Paul. I'm the developer of the scalar, the Wi-Fi technology, and a whole bunch of scalar technologies to give a little background about my experience. Basically, my background's in body work and different healing systems. And I've been involved over the years with lots of different things, from ozone to live cell analysis to Rife unit technology, different kinds of LEDs and lasers. And basically my passion is, if you're having an issue, a challenge, a knee, an organ issue, some kind of stress, emotion, doesn't matter. The key is, and the thing that I'm really passionate about, is how do you take that situation and change the physics of it? To me, that's the only thing that's important, right? In my life, in my reality, and in the people I work with, I'm constantly saying, okay, there's an issue. Because in life nowadays, you have an issue, you got 2 or 3 options, right? Option one is you do nothing about it, right? Which a lot of people do. A lot of people live with chronic pain or an issue or what have you, and they do nothing about it. Option two is you can go to the doctor, right? A lot of doctors nowadays, they give pharmaceuticals. To me, that's not a great solution, because those folks are not actually dealing with the issue, they're dealing with the symptoms. And so they're shifting symptoms, and then that one issue diffracts to a bunch of different issues. And to me, that's like, oh, gee, great. You got a whole bunch of things to deal with. So that to me isn't a viable option. To me, what I'm drawn to and attracted to is, how do you go right to that underlying root cause of that situation and find a way to shift it, to change the physics of that condition, so that you can tell right away that it's less of an issue than it was a moment ago. If you can try something and do something and be like, oh, wow, that's less of an issue, then you come back and you do it again a little bit later. And you can in that way guide things. From my perspective, the big epidemic on planet Earth right now is people are holding on to things from the past: injuries, emotions, stress, toxicity, cell memory. And so the key from my perspective is, how do we dissolve and collapse those holding patterns, those contractions, so the body can relax, reset. When it resets, the lymph, all the detox pathways, everything opens up, so the body and energy can start to flow and reorganize back into a state of harmony. So my background is in different technologies, bodywork systems, yogic practice, different processes, yogic, energetic, consciousness techniques, yogic techniques, to shift things in one's reality into a state of being.
So basically, learning to let go of what we no longer need or maybe never needed, and then accepting a whole higher vibration, and really going in and finding that really authentic healing from ourself. And when you say that, to create that change, the only way that we can create the change is change the frequency, right?
Well, yeah, to me, frequency is one key component.
Yeah.
The key understanding that, from my perspective, who I am as a being from the cosmos, right? A lot of people go through life experiencing who they are as a person, coming from when they were born. Like, that's the trajectory people are on here on planet Earth. They're born, they have this identifying structure of their personality that helps them navigate through. It's good for that personality is good for navigating the planet, but it's entirely useless for understanding who you are in the cosmos.
Right. So
it's about tuning your reality to the subtler states and dimensions and planes that the yogis and mystics and saints of every tradition understand and describe from their experiences.
Yeah. So some people would say learning to honor the energy body, the spirit body, whatever the case, and getting a little bit more out of the physical body. Like, we will use a lot of times water fasting and things of that nature to try to get people away from their physical body so much, so they can start experiencing what an energy body feels like.
Totally.
Yes.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Good. So why don't you tell us about the Doc of Detox Qifi and how it was developed? Okay.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
So for anyone that's hung around with me or the work that I do for years, I've been trying things. I constantly try things. And most of the things that I come up with are because of an issue or a situation I'm dealing with that's not working. And I'm like, wow, I got to change the physics. I'm really into everything I'm looking at that's an issue. Okay, how do I collapse it, change the physics? So I was traveling about maybe 6-7 years ago a lot. I've been traveling a lot for years, doing seminars, trainings around the planet. And at a certain point, there was a shift in the hotels that I was staying in. Two things started happening in a lot of the hotels that I was staying in. One is they went from having little Wi-Fi signals, little Wi-Fi things in each room or every other room, so they started putting things up on the ceiling, these Cisco white Wi-Fi things. And the other is that a lot of hotels started putting cell phone towers on the hotels. So I always notice these things. Like I'm going to share at some point with you all something called Stillpoint. For me, I'm always kind of tuning. From my perspective, again, my background is in cranial work. Cranial sacral work is a big part of my background, along with yogic practice. And to me, there's two real states that people are in, for the most part, here on planet Earth. One is a state of sympathy, where they're in their sympathetic condition. The adrenals are kind of running the show for a lot of people. Adrenaline, cortisol, and they're reacting to things that are on the outside of them, right? Stimulation, noise, Wi-Fi, all these things that are outside affect that part of the nervous system. I studied cranial work with yogis, and the other key piece is the parasympathetic system, which to me is what I call this state of still point, which I use in my life constantly. In fact, I just felt it dropped in. So for anyone that, if you notice, I'll give you just a quick reference of it. If you take a breath in and stop right at the top of the breath, hold for a moment. It feels like holding the breath. Don't hold the breath. Let the breath keep going like it does when you rest, right? It does its own thing on its own. Yet you stay here in the space between the breath. You can totally rest here. Breath keeps going. You stay here. I learned this from a yogi. And if you're here, try holding a thought or an emotion.
So what are you saying? Because I just want to make sure we get this clear. So you're saying take in a breath, hold it for a second, and then allow the breath to start breathing again, but stay in that feeling that you feel when you're holding your breath. Is that
you take the breath in, the space at the top right before it goes down, the in-breath, stop, space, hold right in that space. You're dropping into that space in between the in and the out.
Right. And then
Yogis call it space between the breath.
Yeah, so you're dropping into the space between the breath. That's the still point. But then you allow yourself to continue to breathe, but you stay in that feeling or that vibration or that frequency.
You got it. I mean, basically, when babies come in here, the cranial rhythm, which is slower than the breath, the breath is synced with the cranial rhythm when people first come to planet Earth. When as people grow up, as they get stressed, the cranial rhythm the breath starts moving faster, and it puts people into a state of sympathy.
Right.
And so when I drop into still point, we're not saying, yogis call this the breathless state. I'm not saying it's breathless. I'm saying the breath slows and it syncs with the cerebral spinal fluid rhythm. And when that happens, people start to rest and abide. I call it in a state of still point. Really, it's a state of the parasympathetic condition.
And and really, it's the only place you can heal. You can only rest.
The quintessential state of being connected to the universe and beyond. It is literally the natural condition which nature and all things abide in.
Yeah. It's being connected in a harmonious, beautiful way that takes no energy. It's just natural.
Absolutely. It's also scalar. It's also the scalar state of the energy of the universe. Now for me, I model my whole reality around this, because to me, when I'm in this state, and I do seminars about once you're in this state, how to cultivate the energy along the spine, how to activate your organs, glands, the subtle alchemy. So to me, this state is central for me in navigating planet Earth. What most people in the old age use the personality as their structure to navigate their experience, I use still point. Still point in the field around the body, I call the quantum field, is the structure that I use to navigate my reality here on this planet.
Yeah, because still point is bringing you back to your real origin, because your personality was just something you developed after you came here and developed, and your personality is just made up of pieces of everybody else that was an influence in your life. So it's not really your personality, because our real, if we want a beautiful reality, then we have to go back in and do a lot of erase, replace, and find out what we truly are.
I'll tell you this, I abide in still point as best I can every day for two reasons. One, when you're here, you don't hold on to things from the past. This is the neutral state.
Right.
When people are in a linear trajectory, their past, present, future, they hold on to stuff from the past, and then they don't realize the universe starts reflecting whatever they're holding on to. So for me, resting here is about collapsing things. I don't want to hold on to cell memory, emotions, belief, judgment. All that stuff already happened, right? I don't need more of it. And the second reason I stay here is that they found that when you abide in this state, for me, I immediately feel my energy field opens when I'm in still point. So what they discovered is that when you're in still point, yogis call it breathless state in India, the cells increase uptake of nitric oxide. So nitric oxide to me is this amazing compound that's all around us, lower concentration than air, though nitric oxide is literally this thing that basically it activates endorphins, serotonin, it activates the glands. To me, it's this profound bliss molecule that activates the immune system, it activates longevity and stem cells. It's like a super compound. So when I'm resting in still point, I'm basically saying, okay, good higher dimensional substances, come here, help me activate this nice subtle state of bliss.
Yes, I actually call that Lionheart breathing. We do something similar to this, but yeah, because I believe that, that's the Lionheart, where you're very confident. You're not in a reactive state anymore. You're in I'm going to be calm and take action where needed, and if action is not needed, then I will stay still.
Yeah, it's about being posited to your being. So instead of always, the yogi I learned from said, so many people here are horizontal to things, right? Someone gets upset, they get upset. He'd say everyone in America everyone's in sympathy, horizontal. The key to the spiritual practice is going vertical, to being impaired, where you're rooted in the condition of your being, which is the medical symbol also, right? It's a beautiful representation of alchemy, where the pineal opens, the wings open. The medical symbol is an ancient alchemy symbol that shows the vertical nature of being back into a state of being and consciousness. So still point to me is how I dissolve the horizontal sympathy stuff and activate the subtle opening and activation and flowering of the subtle state of being.
Yeah, and still point, and for some people they may not understand, but we can only really heal and create in a positive, beautiful way, being in the present moment, and that allows us
That's right.
to continually. You got to keep on practicing, everyone, to be in the present moment, because you'll know when your life has gone to where in a basket, because you're not in the present moment. You're in the past, or you're fighting with the present, or you're fearing your future.
Yeah, this is the technology of being. Someone from Canada actually asked me recently at an event. She said she was on a call with Deepak or someone, and they were saying about being in the present moment. And she said, "Is that kind of like still point?" For me, still point is literally the technology to help make collapse anything except the present. It brings you right. Again, everyone take one nice breath in. Stop right at the top. Hold for a moment. Allow the breath to keep going, yet you stay here in the space between the breath.
Absolutely. And everybody, just so you know what we're talking about, this is the actual Qifi right here, okay? And the Qifi is on right now. And so give us an introduction about how the Qifi came to be.
So basically, I was traveling around and I was noticing that all this extra signal from these new Wi-Fi routers, if you measure them, the amount of signal is profound. And so when I'm around a lot of signal, I can feel it affects my condition that I'm naturally in. So the state for me that I like to abide in, of being relaxed and at ease and in still point, I was finding being in hotels. I'd leave hotels and I was like, my cells, everything was being pelted with this frequency. And the cell phone's worse, right? Cell phone towers are microwave radiation. It goes through cement. It's really hard it ramps people's adrenals up. It completely puts people into a sympathetic condition.
Yeah.
And so go ahead.
If I can say this, Paul, a lot of people out there think that they're just in a bad mood, but they're not in a bad mood. They're in a bad vibration. And
Totally.
You know what? You're not a bad person. It's just that these frequencies are actually destroying your nervous system. They're grating on you. They're disrupting your mitochondria right down to the cellular level. If I can say something, you know what? I do lectures at hotels and big hotels. Well, we were, Paul, until we got the Doc of Detox Qifi and I started using it, guess what? I had to do Airbnb. I couldn't stay in the hotels. By the second day, I had a migraine from hell. And I mean that. There's no other way to explain it. And this stuff was always disturbing me. And everybody just thought, I'm just making this up. Well, for years it would go like that. So now this enables me to go to these big hotels because when I'm lecturing, it actually goes into the lecture hall with me. When I'm up at the booth, it goes to the booth because it's so easy to take with me. When I go to my room, it goes back to my room. And when I'm in a restaurant, even in a hotel, you know what? It's gotten to the point with me that, I can be looked at as a radic fanatic, but guess what? I'm the guy that is not in a sympathetic state. And even though I'm resting, my body is just on the tear. And I can't do that anymore. And I won't do that anymore because I know what still point or staying in the breath or staying in that present moment feels like. And now I can do it unconsciously because the Qifi does that for me.
Totally. Yeah, so I made it because I travel nonstop, and so I sat my engineers down. I came up with it, and we tried. Whenever I make stuff, I whiteboard, and then we try different things until I see the effect. So we tried a bunch of different things, and each one of them to me felt like another signal that was kind of hitting me. Anything linear that hits you is going to put you in a linear state. So it's got to be. It was a little bit of an orchestration to find what that like. All of our technologies are designed in collapsing waves and opening up space, what we call an induction into the scalar energy that's all around us.
So if I can ask you, Paul, so we're not trying to overpower other frequencies. We're not trying to push them back, and we're not saying that we change them. We're actually saying that we can collapse them.
Yeah, basically, I mean, there's too much signal now. Any device anyone that says they're going to collapse it's not the strategy that to me that's viable given the amount of signal that people are being barraged with right now. So what we do, this device is a very subtle technology. We collapse waves into one point.
What does that mean? What does that mean into one point?
So I'll give you an example. Scalar, so linear frequencies, any wave goes like this. It goes from past it goes in a linear trajectory. It's called a longitudinal wave. And it travels like this from past to present to future. To me, and there's a lot of different views about scalar, so I don't say I'm the only expert. I'm just telling you my experience of it, what works for me. And I tell people, don't believe me, don't trust me, try it and see if it helps. If it helps, use it. If it doesn't help, don't use it. Don't do it. So to me, if you take that scalar, that wave and take the past and the future and collapse it perfectly in perfect wave symmetry, 180 phase symmetry, where it'll go like this. That wave that was moving like this will now go like this, and it'll look kind of like this. It's so I'll give you an example. An example of scalar is the breath, right? Positive, negative, breath, positive, cranial rhythm, positive, negative, flexion, extension. When you take the breath in, stop at the top, neutral. That's the scalar collapse of the positive and negative breath. Scalar. There's an opening into space. When you drop, I feel at every occasion, every seminar I do, I tell people every 10, 15 minutes in my life, I drop into Stillpoint. For me, I don't even use the breath. It's like an autofocus. I just kind of bring the waves of my body, I collapse them into neutral. It immediately expands and opens the energy. Well, so what I make technology is I do the same thing. I copied what happens in Stillpoint from cranial work and from yogis. Yogis live in the space between the breath. So I'm taking waves, and I patented this. In our lasers, we collapse them we're collapsing waves, and we're collapsing them in perfect symmetry. So when they cancel, they open up a field. And it's that opening of this field where these waves come together, kind of like the movie Contact. If you ever saw the movie Contact?
Right. Yeah.
Right in the middle there was an opening that opened up. So it's not the exact same. We're collapsing waves. When they collapse, there's a little opening that happens. That opening to me does two things, right? One, it opens a field that kind of emanates like this, non-linear. It's not a linear wave that's hitting. It opens up this ripple of wave that neutralizes linear things. It just kind of softens them a little bit. It doesn't cancel everything out. It just makes a field that expands. You can measure it up going a mile or two. It goes pretty far. It opens up this very subtle field that goes like this. The other key thing that it does is any living things in that field, it induces a Stillpoint response where the body takes a little breath, a sigh, and it starts to induce whoever's around it to drop into Stillpoint. And the benefit of that is, to me, the only answer that I've come to of how to not let all these frequencies and things blow you out constantly nonstop, is to strengthen your own state of still point and your own field. The stronger your field is, to me, still point's so important. It's kind of like if you ever see a tent and the poles are all flimsy, the tent's off. Once you connect the poles, put it through the thing, put it in the ground, the thing can go through storms, right? It's like coherent.
Right.
When you drop into still point, it stabilizes your muscles, your bone, your lymph, your energy, everything comes into a state of coherence. It's that coherence to me that I rely on to protect from all these linear distractions that are going on right now on this planet.
Okay, so here's two things. First of all, a lot of people out there, I know you're going, okay, well, just understand something. We're talking about science here. So we've taken, remember when you used to see Paul on Star Trek and they'd have the flip phone? Well, when I was a kid, I would go, wow, that is amazing. And we're so past the flip phone. So understand something. Any of you out there that are having like a bit of a constipation issue in your consciousness right now and going, I don't even know what he's talking about. Understand. Well, just listen to this a few more times and then understand something. It's like everything else new. It's going to take you a little bit to wrap your head around it. But understand something. What also Paul's telling you here is this isn't just a Wi-Fi EMF protector. It's actually creating a harmonic state in your whole physical body as well, because there's no way that you can get away from the light energy being part of you, the part that we are electrical beings. I mean, when there's no electricity in us, we are not alive anymore. When there's a little electricity, only a little left, we are sick with dis-ease because we're out of harmonic presence with ourselves. Right, Paul? What do you think?
Yeah, totally.
Okay.
And I'll tell you, they're using lasers and these kinds of technologies. They're using them in so many different ways in society. People often look and they say, how is that? I tell people they're using the same stuff to do all kinds of things. The only difference with us is we've taken some of these technologies, diodes, lasers, different kinds of frequency and technology, and we're simply using it to tune, very subtly to tune different effects and responses to induce a state of unwinding and reset into that state of neutral.
And okay, so explain unwinding and also
Sure.
still point response and how to tune it. Those things right there. Would you do that for me?
Yeah. So basically, I don't want to get too advanced or technical, yet suffice to say that for people that are working with these products that we develop and that have been using them, the key to everything I make a bunch of things. Everything I make has one key goal. And the goal is, to me, the issue that I see with most people that I work with again and again and again and again is that they're holding on to stuff. They're holding on to things. The people on this planet in the last age that we're leaving as we enter a new season, the last age, people were in the process of holding on to things that happened, and they developed their structure or personality around that. A whole big snowball of all the things that have ever happened to them, right? So the new season we're going to me is the opposite. It's about not holding on to things. And so my passion is dissolving things, unwinding them. So someone comes to me with a knee injury. Deepak years ago was fantastic, right? He came out early on when Deepak came out. I heard him. He said that. He said, why if the body is new every 7 or 10, 8 years, new body, everything's new. Why would people be holding on to injuries, situations 10, 15, 20 years later? It's a great question. And he and some other people came out with the theory of cell memory, which works like this. If you get a knee injury or shoulder, the cells hold on to the information from that situation. New cells keep coming in, yet the old cell passes the information to the new cell. New cell now acts and behaves like the old cell, even though it's a brand new cell.
So if I can break in for a second, on a
Sure.
physical point, I do what you do because we've taken on what you do. But what we do is we do what's called Wolfe Deep Tissue, and we do what we call the ultimate fasting, and that also does unwinding. We physically go in and unwind the scar tissue, the calcium, the crystallization that holds the memory, and we also use fasting to take the energy and the focus away from the physical body so that the light body can actually move out these physical things that are entrapped.
Beautiful.
Yeah. And then
Yeah.
well, it's all about this. You know what? It's the
Yeah.
coming together of people to
Yeah. Yeah.
create a better system for everyone.
Sure,
Yeah.
absolutely. Yeah, yeah, no, that's beautiful. And this is similar, it's very akin to that. To me, back then in fact, I was practicing cranial work back then when I heard Deepak say that. And in my head, I went to, okay, how do you clear the cell memory? Because he didn't say how to clear it. So in my head, people come to me, what I did for years before I developed technologies, people come to me and I'd hold points until I felt the fascia unwind. Then I'd feel the rhythm start to go. And then I'd put it in still point. It was like a cassette, right? You hit erase, it flips the polarity, right? Information gone on the cassette, right? People with me, I'd find the rhythm, I'd collapse it, neutral, information gone. And I did that with my hands for years until I got burnt out. I was working like 10, I was busy. I was good. Problem was people would come back to me, 2 weeks later and were still holding on to stuff. So I got kind of burnt out and I said, I'm taking a breather, went to India. I was with a yogi. Yogi said that he lived in the space between the breaths. And as soon as I heard him say that, I said, oh, wow, the same thing I've been using to collapse things, this guy just jumped in and lives his whole reality in there. So I said, that's interesting. So I tried it. And since then, I used that as my primary operating system for navigating things. And then, some while later, I started playing around. I had some tooth issue. I started playing around with lasers and found that if I collapsed the waves inside the laser, I could unwind the cell memory using light, which was cool. And then progressed to the Qifi, and we made this to kind of just have that it's the same thing in all the different things of inducing this unwinding where the wave, the injury, emotion, organ, if you can get it to go into that decompression. To me, there are 3 states in the universe: contract, positive, negative, neutral. Other traditions call yin yang wu wei, physics, positive, negative, neutral. There's 3 key states in the universe, right? Positive, negative, neutral. Positive to me is contraction, anything that's holding on. Contraction, negative, unwinding when it starts to, like a rubber band, tight. Unwinding, when it unwinds, neutral. To me, the way I go through life, everything I interact with in my own reality, people I interact with, if things are tight, I simply say, oh, great, okay, let's unwind. Let's invite it to unwind. When it unwinds, neutral, reset, neutral. There's nothing wrong with any state. The key is to have the full range of progression to be able, a lot of people live with something wound and they don't have the technology or understanding for how to unwind it, reset it, and land it back into that state of being neutral. So to me, I'm just all about staying neutral and inviting anything I interact with to move through that progression from contraction, unwinding, neutral, so things can be reset in the cosmos.
That's amazing. And thank you for explaining it like that. Now, the other thing is that what people, I don't know why, but people have a hard time wrapping their head around it. Like when you're dealing with 5G or you're dealing with cell frequencies, they can travel for miles and miles and miles. And then when you tell people that this won't just do your whole house, but it can actually spread out within the neighborhood, and people go, no, there's no way. So, it's funny how people will embrace that a negative frequency can go for miles and it can wipe out things. But then when you're talking about something that creates peace and harmony, it just wouldn't have the power to do that.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the good thing is that I find, and a lot of people in our network that experience it, I did a live over the internet early on when I first made this, and I got an email from someone in Iceland who didn't have the technology, who emailed and said she felt it when I did it. And the more we use it, we have all kinds of story from radionics healers and people that use it on long distance. They put a person's picture near it, and it's definitely a tool that we have thousands of people that use this, and you can definitely treat, you can definitely work on things. Again, this isn't medical. We're working on unwinding things and resetting them back into their neutral state, whether it's an organ, whether it's an injury, whether it's the whole condition, doesn't matter to me. Doesn't matter to me what I work on, whether it's a cell, whether it's an issue, an organ, the whole person, doesn't matter. If you understand what you're working on, you can invite it to shift, unwind, reset back to neutral.
Because everything is about frequency.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, basically the way I see it, right? Anything that comes here to planet Earth and anything that's coming into this process, first it has to go through the universal, then it goes down through the galactic, right? There's a galaxy spinning, then it lands on planet Earth, right? Planet Earth's like a fixated state. right? So to me, it'd be like if you went in the ocean. If you want to get out of the ocean, right? If you're on the bottom of the ocean, you got to swim up. Then you get out and you're back into to me, 3 states. Being on planet Earth, things are physical. The planet spins, it pulls things, kind of like that ride at the carnival when we were kids, it spin around and it pulls you back.
Yeah.
The planet's spinning around and it's pulling everyone into the physical form, right? So if you want to unwind from that, you got to go, the galactic state is like this big bottle of water. The galaxy's spinning around. And so positive, negative, there's this axis, right? So everything is that's the cranial rhythm. Everything is moving, or the breath of life. Everything is moving through this rhythm. So contraction, if you can get it to go into this unwinding, where it unwinds, what is the neutral? When you go to the neutral state, yogis say they live in the universal, the state, the neutral, the still point, the space between the breath. As soon as you go into still point, everyone take breath in. Stop right at the top. As soon as you go neutral, you shift out of the galactic state back into the universal state of the space between everything, the neutral. So to me, the unwinding, contraction, unwinding, still point is literally the language of this experience here in this. So if you come down here, it's very important to understand that these 3 pieces and how to, whether you use our technologies or do it in different ways as you are, doesn't matter. Just understanding and having that dialogue with things is key. Otherwise, you got to live with that situation. If you get some injury or something, you got to live with it until hopefully you find some way that helps to unravel and unwind and reset it.
Well, I'm really glad that I had you on today because I really want people to understand something that we're not talking about. Well, at the beginning we are because we have to introduce it. We're talking about Wi-Fi EMF protection, but we need to let people understand something, that the scalar technology that's in the Wi-Fi, it's doing so much more for you than that. It's creating that still point. It's getting you out of a sympathetic state, which is fight, fright, flight, freeze. It's getting you to unwind, right? And when you, oh, wow, honey, I need a glass of wine. I need to unwind every night. Well, we do know that that will help, but it's temporary. And why not do something like using the Wi-Fi to help you unwind and stay there, whether you're talking about being at the office or being at home, or like when I travel to hotels. I mean, it's so light. I mean, it's as light as a feather almost, but understand something, okay? It doesn't need to be heavy to be powerful, because we are light energy beings, and it's all about frequency, and it's all about the efficiency of that frequency to bring us back to this harmonic state that we call still point, right, Paul?
Totally.
Yeah.
Totally.
So,
This is just a very subtle instrument. It's a non-medical instrument. It's designed to open a field that helps to soften anything linear or harsh that's coming at you, and to offer a kind of, for me, it's really a still point inducer. It induces people and things to be moving through that progress, that contraction, unwinding back into still point. The more you can hold still point, the more you're going to be more capable and versed to handle any adversity, challenges that come at you. And I tell you that from my own experience. I'm not telling you, believe me, I'm telling you, try using this experience of still point. You're all good at this now, right? You can all do this. Take a breath in. If you when you're dealing with a challenge, or I always tell people, if you're dealing with any challenges in life, get here first. I never try to fix anything. You see, the problem that a lot of people deal with is they might have like 10 issues going on at once. Some health issues, someone else, a work issue, financial issue, some other stressor. When you're dealing with too many issues, people get all kind of wrapped around the axle, right? They're out leveraged by the issues.
issues in the tissues, Paul.
Yeah, bingo. And the key to still point is you get here, you tell all those things, everything wait out there, right? Be like the CEO, right? They don't let everybody in. They have everybody wait out there, and they take in who they want when they want, right? They have the leverage. So you tell everything wait out there, and I only ever deal with one thing at a go. Bring in that one thing. You be here in this state of being connected to the energy of the universe. You bring that one thing, and now you unwind that thing. It's your, whatever tools you use, whatever you're having leverage, unwinding that, resetting that to neutral. Everything else you say, wait, I'll get to you later, right? Hold tight. Then you bring the next thing. This is about people being empowered to unwind the things that aren't working for them so they can move forward in their lives with a state of coherence and integrity with who they are from the cosmos and beyond.
I got to tell you a story. And I was doing a huge lecture, okay? We were talking about there was approximately 1,200 people at this lecture. And I wasn't lecturing at the time, and I heard somebody talking, and I walked in. I don't know why I walked into the lecture hall, but I decided I would. And I walked into the lecture hall, and there's a guy at the front of and he's got this in his hand, okay? And he's talking about it. And I got to tell you something, Paul, I've seen it all when it comes to EMF protection. And I'll tell you right now, I haven't carried one thing when it comes to a person's home or their office or something that would go to this capacity, because I've never found anything that truly worked. Mm-hmm. So I'm way at the back, and I'm not kidding. There's only standing room in this hall. So there's a lot of people there. And this is a huge hotel, and I'm very sensitive to this stuff, right? So he goes and he says, okay, I want everybody to turn your back. Okay. Tell me when I turn it on. All right. So, okay, I thought, okay, this is goofy. This guy's really goofy. So anyways, he turned it on, and as soon as he did, I felt it. And then he says, okay, I'm going to turn it off again. And then he turned it on again, and I could feel the subtle difference. It was subtle. It wasn't like it hit me, but I felt it. I felt this subtleness that I really liked, and I just went, wow, okay, now I'm blown away. And then I looked at it again, and I go, wow, a spaceship, great. And I go, you know what? I don't. So then I really had to wrap my head around this thing, because I really didn't think that something, like, even though I've been in the business of energy medicine, I was doing selling Rife equipment, okay, back 36 years ago. Okay, we were selling Rife equipment, ozone equipment, and all of this stuff. So I've been around and I've seen it all. But you know, I got to tell you, Paul, I love it. I love it, and you know,
you hit the nail on the head. You know, the strength of our approach to things is in the subtle. I make things. When I make things, I try lots of things until I feel that. And when I tried this, I had my engineers about 40 feet away from me, and we were trying different things. It was a proto that we were working with, and when we hit the exact thing that turned into be this, I was sitting there and I was like, as soon as boom, I was like, that's it. It dropped me in. It was subtle. It was clean. And then I took a walk, and I had to do the same thing where they turned it on and turned it off. I could tell exactly. I was half a mile away. I could tell exactly when it went on, exactly when it went off. This is a very subtle, or even our approach to other technologies, lasers and things, it's all a very subtle approach to inducing things. To me, the way you move things to another state is it's tuning. It's very subtle tuning. I'll tell you one more thing. I did a big anti-aging A4M conference in Vegas a couple of years ago. We often go to that show, and the keynote, I'm not going to drop their name, but one of the keynotes, who's a very successful, well-respected heart doctor, who basically goes around telling everyone, you know, basically all the Wi-Fi signal is aging everyone. It's ramping up adrenaline. It's basically shutting the cells down. It's shutting the ATP. You know, so ATP is the key to health and longevity, right? If the ATP is flowing good, people are regenerating and everything's going great. If the ATP is degenerated, which can happen from stress and other things, people don't age so good. So he came up to our booth and looked at the spaceship and said, "What is that?" And I said, "Oh, it's a subtle healing Wi-Fi technology." I didn't realize who he was until finally he pulled out some meters. He started testing people and doing all this stuff, and there was a whole entourage of 15, 20 people watching this. Finally, I said to my assistant, I'm like, "Who is this guy?" She gave me his name. I'm like, "Oh, I had never met him. He's a great guy. He's a really, really great guy." Dr. Steven Sinatra, actually, so basically. He spent about 2 hours hanging out. Then I put him on the table, unwound him, did stuff. He bought a full package. He said he had never seen anything quite like this. The approach that we take is unlike. It's not traditional EMF. It's not blocking everything. It's a totally different approach that's based in understanding of how to induce subtle states like stillpoint.
You know, it's just a beautiful thing, Paul. And we're so blessed that you took the time to be at peace with yourself, to be able to come up with something like this, because that's what you had to do. You had to be in Stillpoint to actually create this. So that's really the amazing part of it. And I
left college when I was younger and went to India and did quite a bit of internal meditative yogic practice. And so to me, I adore this state. And I'm not sure how I got involved in medical devices and making things, but to me, they induce this, and that's why I share it. That's why I do it. Everything we make is about inducing, helping things to abide in this state. Because when people are in this state, there's no, for me, when I'm in still point, I feel this nice flow of energy. The glands start to open. Some of our more advanced stuff is about activating the glands. To me, the glands are key. And so many people are living in adrenaline and cortisol, and all that does is it burns the system. When adrenaline's on, it turns off the hypothalamus, turns off all the other glands. People get prostate issues, sexual health issues, diabetes, autoimmune, thyroid issues, pineal, pituitary, depression, insomnia. As soon as you unwind the adrenals and get people in still point, the adrenals reset, the parasympathetic system comes on, and the glands start to come back online, which is, to me, when people start to feel the bliss, the connection, all the blessings of who they are and why they're here. So it's a great blessing for me to even be a part of it and to connect with folks like you who are doing just amazing work, and the folks you're working with. So I really appreciate it.
Well, thank you. And I want everybody to understand something. If you didn't get a lot of this, because a lot of this is new, don't think that you have a low understanding or you're slow or anything like that. Whenever we hear something new, we've got to hear it a few times. So don't be afraid to play this over a few times and watch this video. And then don't be afraid to write down words and then look them up on YouTube or look them up on the web and do some cross-referencing so that you can get your subconscious mind behind your conscious thought that this is real. So understand something. If really what it boils down to is this is a bliss machine. It's to help to bring bliss into your life. And you know what? You deserve it. And like Paul said, you know what? At the Doc of Detox, try it out. If you don't think it's working, send it back. Because understand something. And the reason why we say this is because guess what? I could tell a lie long enough and strong enough, I'd have a whole world believing it. And then I could tell the truth, but because it's just so out there, I'm not going to accept it. So understand something. Try to remain open and let go of those things you really don't need anymore and allow new thoughts to come in, because the only way that we can expand is through our conscious mind. Right, Paul?
Yeah, absolutely. The key right now on planet Earth is we're going through a massive shift. And the key is to be able to drop some of the old structures that have been prevalent in the last age and open up to new. It's like I tell people, it's like leaving, our planet's going through a shift right now. It happens, every 26,000 years. And it's like we reorient to a different part of it's like if you're moving through the galaxy as it moves along, right? It's like driving a car. You're in the city, then you go out into the country. It's a different physics. And so I tell people we're entering into a new area. So it's really important right now to not hold on to those things from the previous one, because it's like wearing winter clothes in spring, right? It's not going to help. You got to adjust to the new physics of the new season. And so not a big deal. We're moving to a new season, dissolve things, and allow new structures to come in that are more appropriate for the moment that we're moving into here.
That's right. We need to embrace this universal adventure. And I'll tell you one thing, Paul, everybody's blessed, man, to have you to have done this, because we have had so many unbelievable comments come back from people, and it's not even about them, but about their children, their pets, somebody older in the house that can't seem to keep their thoughts together anymore. People with anger issues, they've calmed it down. People with migraines. So understand something, everyone. It's not blocking anything. It's just opening up and allowing the true you to come to the surface.
Yeah. And I always tell people, I never want anyone to think, buy this, it's going to fix your problem.
No.
But for me, what this does is it helps you get in still point. Still point is what's absolutely wonderful at helping to dissolve and reset and neutralize issues and challenges. This really brings you back to your own state of parasympathy, where your body is designed to reset and find solutions.
It's just giving your body, it's putting your body back into a state to do what it was meant to do. And that was to create bliss and joy and health and healing for us, from the minute we wake up until we go to bed. And wait a minute, guys, even when you go to bed all night long. Paul, is there anything that you would like to leave our audience with?
Just much love and aloha and blessings. And thank you for the work that you're doing and bringing us all together. Totally appreciate it, and hope everyone finds good solutions to help them on their journey.
We are truly blessed, Paul, for having your technology, and I want to thank you right here and right now. And everybody out there, you know what? Come and check it out. You know what? It's new, it's different, but guess what? It might just be a little bit of bliss. Thanks for joining us. God bless and have a beautiful day. If you're looking for life-saving and life-changing information, well, you've come to the right place. Don't forget to click and subscribe. Stay connected.